Right, welcome to this basing tutorial. I'm going to show you how to do the urban colour scheme. So that's that grey urban city fight terrain that is used in most of the armies. The Elder Army, Necron Army, Tau Army, it's all based using this grey colour scheme. I'm going to show you how to do this painting technique, or this basing technique in this particular video. So you can follow along from start to finish and I'll show you how that technique is done. So the model I'm going to use in this basing tutorial is my Imperial Knight that I'm working on at the moment. So the kit's all put together. Here, just finishes up, happy with the weapon configuration. I've done an update video for this, so you can check out how I magnetised the different parts to this, but the weapons here are magnetised. This whole body comes off here and is magnetised as well. So that's the base, like so. What we're going to do is, in this video I'm going to show you how to do the basing. So start to finish, I'll show you how the basing's done, show you how to do all the inks and washes, the highlights, the details, the metal work, chipping, the flock work as well that we're going to put on, and so on. I'll show you how that's completely done, and then once I've shown you how the basing's done, I'm going to do an in-depth painting tutorial for the Plus channel. If you want to know how to paint Imperial Knights, then I will be doing an in-depth painting tutorial, and that will be available on the Plus channel. And then from start to finish I'll show you how to paint an Imperial Knight. It's going to be an epic painting tutorial, the biggest challenge I think so far, but I think it's one that will be valuable to have on the Plus channel. So if you're interested in painting Imperial Knights, which can be I'm intimidated by it, and it is a real challenge for sure, but if you want help and guidance through that process, then you can check out the in-depth painting tutorial over on the Plus channel. The link to that is just on the Striking Scorpion 82 channel homepage. So I'm just going to move these bits out of the way here, and then I'm going to zoom in and we'll take a look at the stage. You can see that I've put some details onto the base already. It hasn't been primed yet. Usually I show you the model once it's been primed, but I'm going to show you before priming takes place. So these are all the bits just as they've been stuck on. Left it to dry last night, and then it's all ready to be primed just here. So we'll zoom in here and take a look at the details. Alright, so just zoomed in there. It is a large base, this one, so I didn't want to just put sand over the top and then just leave it at that. I did want to add some areas of interest, but again, didn't want to go too over the top, so it takes away from the impact of the model itself. I did want to raise the model up a bit higher, but I didn't want to do it so that it would be all wonky. I wanted the feet to sit nice and flat. So the way that I did that was to use some round slotter bases. So these round slotter bases here, I had some spare ones. What I did was stick them on. I'm just going to show you underneath. Put them on like in 4, and then over here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just a spare one in the middle. So stuck them on here. You can hardly see them, they've been covered up by the sand and stones pretty well, but stuck those on, and that left a nice level surface for me to then just glue the Imperial Knight on top. Just use plastic glue for sticking those into position. That left him on nice and solid, and then just raised him up. You can see a few millimeters there. I just wanted to create a bit more height, just to make this tall, imposing model even more bigger and imposing as well, just to lift him up from the terrain. So then after that, I used some various basing materials. Just show you. Okay, so just zoomed out here so you can see the different materials. It's a mixture of rocks and so on. So I used some rocks here. Now I found these on a beach. So that's a mixture of stones. You buy stuff from an aquarium or somewhere else, sometimes the stones have been sifted and they're very uniform in size. It's good to go to a beach or a lake somewhere, pick up the stones, because they're completely random. I just found these along the side of this is actually a lake edge here. These stones are perfect, it's a nice variety of size just there. And I've got another pot where I've mixed in some of these stones, but also these very fine stones here. I found these on a beach, all sort of the same size, and then just gathered just a small amount of them. And that's for my finer size stones. Again, it's good to go to a beach or something because the stones are nice and random in size. And then here is just builder's sand, or sharp. You can get sharp sand, and it's very cheap to buy. You can buy a nice big bag of it. and then you can sift it, which is what I did here. Sieve, took out all the big stones and shells, and then just left the smaller sand grains and smaller stones in there as well. And that's just the finer sand that you put on to the basing. So that's those there for the stonework. So what I've done here, so remember we've got these bases in place. So what I did was took some larger stones, see them here, and then just used super glue now, switched over to super glue, and then where the gaps were in between the bases, just super glued these large stones in position. Just trying to fill in the gaps so that you can't see those round slotter bases. You do that just by super gluing in stones, some on top, nice flat ones, and then some in between the gaps just there, filling in as many as possible. Then for some accessories, Space Marine kits here, Rhino spares, just a busted up door here, put some drill holes. I'll zoom in here so you can see some battle damage that I've done. So just zooming in, used a drill to put some random holes like bullet marks, used the pliers to cut and a knife to cut some detail into this, just some scars, some battle damage and scrapes, and just cut off part of the panel, cut off part of this top panel here for the razorback. Spare bolter I've stuck on, spare bolter just balancing on the end of the rock just there. There's the other half of that plate from the razorback. There's an old Space Marine banner I've buried in there and just run the sand over partially over the top. An old heavy flamer here on top just there. And you can see these skulls that I've added. They come from, they're called Grim Skull here. The website is Wargames exclusive. If you type that up on Google you'll find them. They're based in Ukraine. They do all sorts of battlefield accessories, but they do packs of skulls. It's not very expensive, you get about 50 skulls in there, and that lasts ages. And I think they look really, really cool, especially for 40k to have skulls on your bases. Looks really cool. So I just super glued those in as well. So at that stage you've then got some rocks super glued on, some accessories and battlefield debris glued on. They're all fixed nice in place. If you use the wood glue, you have to wait ages for it to dry and things can fall off as you go along. So I just use super glue just to put them in position very quickly. And then once that was done, just applied PVA in the gaps, or from a palette that took PVA and painted it in, filled in all the gaps, and then just dropped on the larger stones, medium stones first, and then did part of the base at a time. So I did like this part, next part, dipping it into the sand to finish it off, bashing off the spare, and then that's the final result just there. And then just gradually work my way around, filling in all the gaps. And then once I bashed the sand off, if there was a hole or a gap somewhere I didn't like, I wanted to fill it in, just used the glue, added in some more glue, put some more sand and stones on, and just gradually kept building it up until I was happy with the final outcome. So that's the final result there. It just gives you a view of how it looks before the undercoating takes place. So the next stage then, as we get into the tutorial, I'm going to run through materials that you need. I'm going to give this a spray next of the undercoat that I use just to get it ready to make a start for the painting process. Alright, so the spraying's done. I've used the grey spray just there. I'm going to run through the materials in just a moment, but there you can see the finished base like so. That colour just links it all together. It's all different colours going on over the rocks and the sand and the different accessories on the base, but that's all linked together now with that dark grey spray. And then gone on to spray the Imperial Knight here with the silver spray just there, the rest of the body and so on, like so. So that will go on like that, like there, and you can see the other parts going on to the model like so. As I said, Plus channel, you'll be able to check out the full painting tutorial for this Imperial Knight, an epic challenge that it is, but I'll show you from start to finish how to complete that project. But for this video we're going to carry on with the base here. We're going to get this base done in this video. I'll show you how to paint the urban colour scheme basing technique. So materials then, we talked about the basing materials that you use. That's the larger stones, smaller stones, and then the sand, the sifted sand that you can use as well. You don't have to go for these sizes. You can source them from all different places. You know, aquatic centres, you can go to garden centres as well. Builders, merchants will sell different types of stones and so on. But as I said, often they're sifted and put into specific sizes. So if you want something more random, then things like lakes and beaches are where you can find a selection of stones and sand and so on as well. That's those materials. So it's those materials I used for the base just here. Then to glue them into position, I used PVA glue. It will need that later to put the flock on the base when we've finished. So some PVA glue. Super glue you can get a hold of for sticking the parts on as well. So just a decent super glue. You can get some activator as well, some spray to help things set quicker. You can use that. I talked about the scars. You can get those Wargame exclusive, they're called. You can look them up, or Grim Scar. You can find them, little scar accessories that can go on the base just there. So then for sprays, this is the crucial part. This is where you save loads of time. The spray in this grey is just, it's done my edge for me, which is the edge colour I want, and then it's given me a dark shade here for all the metal work and the stone work. So it puts you nicely ahead to be able to spray the whole thing. So the grey I've used for that is called Stealth. The code is 7070. It's by Montan sprays. Not available in every country, so you have to find out if you can get a hold of it. It's Montan Gold. It's like a graffiti artist spray range. That's the colour. It's not a medium grey. It's not. It's just a dark grey, but not too dark. And again, you don't have to get that exact shade. You can go lighter or darker as you wish. It's no problem. But that is the colour, just there. So Montan Gold for that one. So I gave that a spray first, all around the base. Some of it flicked up onto here. It's no problem. Once that was dry, I used some tissue, some kitchen roll, split it, and then just filtered it through, covered up the base, and then sprayed silver over the rest of the Imperial Night. The silver I used for that is the plate mail metal primer. That's by Army Painter, ready available. So you can get a hold of that one, not too expensive. It just gives you a nice silver colour here for the Imperial Night, and that sets up this model ready for the painting tutorial. Save you loads of time. If you can spray in silver, this particular technique I'm going to show you, it just saves tons and tons of time. So highly recommend the Army Painter plate mail spray. And then to finish off, and this is very, very important, I've sprayed both the silver and the grey base with Games Workshop Purity Seal. It's a clear varnish, and what this does, if you don't spray with the Purity Seal and you put inks onto this metal work, often it will form puddles and it won't spread out very well. But with the Purity Seal you can put it on and it will just flow on and evenly spread out across the paint so much better. And the same here as well. When you come to painting metal or put paint onto this, it can be very glossy with the Montan spray that's been used, but when you use a bit of Purity Seal, it helps the paint to go on that much better. So I spray up, so it makes sure the spray goes up inside here underneath, because any areas that you miss, the inks aren't going to go on very well. Then I spray from the front, spin it around to the side, the rear, then up in behind, and then there. And then when it comes to spraying the base, I spray down onto the base, just light coats. Don't want to go too heavy. Just light coats of spray, trying to capture everywhere to make sure that varnish goes on. Don't do it too heavy. Just light coats, light spray will be enough to give that the right coverage. So that's that. That model's now prepped and ready for basing and for painting. So then for paint, just got tissue and palette, just some materials. Got a pot here of my water, selection of brushes. Got a nice size brush here. I'm using a wash brush. I'll use that for highlighting a lot of the base, but it's still not too big that I lose control over it. Then some other size brushes, base coat, standard brush, large brush, for painting on the details. Then the flock to finish off the base for this grey colour scheme is called Verdant Green. So that's available from a company called TSS, Total System Scenic, the UK. You can buy little packs of their flock. I've always used it down through the years, but you can get something that's similar, like a Games Workshop static grass. It wouldn't be too much of a problem. That's the colour and the shade just there. 'Cause I'm going for urban fight, but it's sort of a city that's been abandoned for a number of years, so it's sort of some grass has started to grow across the rubble. It just makes it, just adds another colour in to the grey. You know, grey can be quite sort of dull and boring, so adding in a bit of green just makes it that much interesting, more interesting. And then here for colours, I've got, and there's some of these colours here for painting the extra bits, the accessories on here. So Administratum Grey, and then Ceremite White. This will be for the rocks. Then for the skulls, on there I've got Ushabti Bone. And for the twisted hulks and metal and bolt guns and so on, I've got Iron Breaker. Then I'm going to be doing sort of Imperial Fist debris, so there will be a little bit of yellow being used. So I've got Flash Gitz yellow. You don't have to use that if you've not got Imperial Fist on there. You know, it might be a bit of Blood Angels wreckage or whatever it is. Just choose your colours and add them in. Seraphim Sepia for a wash. And then Agrax Earthshade for a second wash as well. That'll link and shade in the whole thing. And then Abadon Black here as well. I'll use that on some of the Imperial Fist bits, and then also things like the bolter. Part of the bolter has a black casing around it as well. That is it. I think that's all the colours. So that is the colours that you'll need and the materials. So what we'll do is we'll go on to the first stage, and that's doing some highlights here on this base. Okay, so the first thing I do is the stones, because it can be a bit messy and it flicks onto other parts of the model. So I'll do the stonework first. So Administratum Grey, let's open that up. And then also Ceremite White on standby as well. Like so. I'm going to take a wash brush. I'm just going to lick it here a little bit just to make it a little bit damp, just so that everything flows nicely. I've got my palette just here, and I'm going to highlight all the stones. And as I said, not too worried if it flicks onto some of the metalwork here. We'll pick that up neater later on. So Administratum Grey. You can just see me doing it here. Just taking out a fair bit of this spare paint. You don't want to fill in the details with too much paint. And then just working that on to the base. Just there. And then being very careful and very neat not to flick it onto your edge here, the rim. If you do, just wet a finger quickly and then just rub the paint off, the mistake away. So don't want to touch that rim, don't have to repaint it. And again, that's going to save you time. So just working it in along here. Pick up a bit more paint onto the brush and then along like so. You can flick over the skulls. No problem at all. So I'm just going to do that. Like so. A bit more. Onto the rocks. That's coming up very nice. So you can see that highlight going on. Just there. Pretty happy with how this is coming out. If I flick it onto the feet here, it doesn't matter. Again, I'll be picking that out with the silver later on. And just very carefully trying to capture this edge. Like so. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'll stop there and I'll just show you how to do the white. That's started to dry already. So then I take the white. I haven't washed the brush out. It's still quite dry, still a bit of grey in there, doesn't matter. I'm just going to use that to highlight the stonework here. Just gently flicking over the rocks. Like so, and again being neat up to the edge, don't want to go onto the rim. Skulls being picked out quite nicely, but I'll be using a bit of wash on them later on, and a bit of the Ushabti Bone. Anyway, that base being picked out quite nicely with the white. Just there, so you can see that all being picked out, like so. So there it is. So I'm just going to go around now with the grey and the white, and then just highlight the whole of that base. So you can see the base there with the stonework all picked out. Just there. You can see the paint's flicked onto some of the metalwork and so on, but that'll all be dealt with later on. No problem at all. So here he is all highlighted up. See, when you do the darker shade with the dark grey spray, then the highlights can just go straight on top of that. It's a grey and then sort of off-white colour just flicked on there as well, and that's come out looking pretty good. So what we're going to do now is pick out the scars. I'm just going to paint them with the Ushabti Bone, any scars that are on the base here. So scars just here, not worried so much. Well, I'll fill in the eye sockets because they'll be shaded in with the brown ink. And it's just adding in the appropriate colour here, just to separate them so that they're not rocks, they are human skulls, so they should be done in a cream colour. I don't want the shading to be as extreme on these, so we'll fill in the open skull there with some paint, but that's just going to paint those, not worrying about the details being filled in on them, because I will wash them with inks later on that will pick the details out. So I'll just go around, because you've already highlighted them with the grey. The cream goes on nicely, just one coat should do it, no problems. Just pick out all the skulls next. Alright, so that's the skulls done. Just painted on there, wherever the skull is. I've just picked them out. I have filled in the eye sockets on most of them. The inks will give it a nicer shading than just leaving it that very dark grey. So that's that done, just there. Next is the metalwork. So any weapons, accessories, all that kind of stuff, I'm just going to pick all of that out with the metal. Even if I'm going to paint it with another colour, like this door here for example, I'm going to paint with the Imperial yellow. I'm going to paint it silver first, and that means that the yellow will go on a lot easier than it will go onto this grey, so it's a good colour to put other colours on top of. So I've gone for Iron Breaker is the colour here, and then just to give you an idea, this silver goes on very nicely now onto the model, and that's because I've used the purity seal on there first. If the purity seal wasn't on there, it would blotch and it would take multiple coats to get it to go on. Sometimes almost impossible, so very significant that you use a bit of purity seal just on the model to prepare it for painting on top. Now I'm being neat here, so just where the stones are, they're already highlighted, so they're all done. I just want to neatly go up to the edge of them with this silver paint, like so. So just carefully working in around them, like that, and then filling in the rest of this panel down the sides and all the cracks, a little bit of it showing just there, and right up to the edge, making sure to do all the sides as well, and then I'll gradually work round and get all of the silver parts painted up next, including the bolter and so on. Everything's all done there with the silver. Right, so that's the silver work done. You can see it just on the base, just there. Just going to zoom a bit so you can see, like so. There's one other colour you can introduce. You don't have to, it depends on what you've got on your base. But I'm going to add a little bit of Hashut copper here to this heavy flamer. And again, it's just optional. If you have it, then you can, just depending on what accessories you've added to your base. But just onto this grill here, this end of this heavy flamer, I'm just going to add some Hashut copper just to the end, just there. But again, I painted it silver first, and then the Hashut copper goes on just fine. So that's that done. Just to mention here, on the banner, I have painted the top of the banner and the skull in silver, not in the cream. That's like a metallic banner there and a metallic skull on top, so that one's different. Just that. So a couple of colours left to do. It's a bit yellow and a bit of black now to add. So yellow next. I've got the Flash Gitz yellow just here. So I've chosen that because it's Imperial Fists as the theme. So this panel here from a Rhino, I think would have some yellow on it. I'll just take the brush and put it on sort of sideways like this, because I don't want to go perfect with the colour. I want to do like a patches of it, like where the paint's been burnt away, scraped off and so on, just with the battle damage coming through. So I don't want to go too neat. I'll work some into there. Work some in along here. Again, don't need to go perfect on it because it's all going to be chipped up and damage coming through, so that looks pretty good. A little bit on here, so some round like so, some along there, and then just sort of maybe some down this edge as well. But I'll do the rest here and then I'll show you what progress I've made. Okay, so that's the yellow done. Just around here, sort of did a bit of a second coat on this one just to strengthen it a little bit. Along here to do the edges on most of these panels as well. And then wherever you think the damage has come through, if you think burns and scratches have come through, and just do less of the colour just to show where that paint's been burnt and scraped away. Just there, the shoulder pad just tucked in here, I just painted the edge of the inside of that yellow as well, and then just around the other side some of the panel just there. But see, it just adds an interest, an area of interest of colour. You've got red here is going to dominate with the actual painted Imperial Knight, so I just put yellow as another colour just to liven up the base a little bit, and just to draw the eye to the top and to the bottom of the model, just to add some nice interest, but not too over the top. You know, once that's toned down with some washes and chipping and so on, it should look pretty good. Next is black, so Abadon Black. And you can paint things like this panel here on the bolter, can be done. So again, just filling it in. Don't have to be absolutely perfect. If the black's not evenly on, it doesn't matter, because it is meant to be an abandoned weapon anyway, so it doesn't have to be totally perfect. But just filling in this panel just here on the bolter, like so. Then the trim and edge here of the shoulder pad, well, that doesn't have to be, it's up to you whether you do that or not. You don't have to do that, I'm just edging it in because it is 5th Company Imperial Fists I'm doing, so it has a black trim just on the shoulder pad, but you can hardly see it, just tucked in there. And then the banner, the cloth for the banner, I'm just going to leave that grey and just shade it with brown, just so the colour's completely washed out of it. Not fuss about that too much. I'm just going to leave that pretty much as it is. And then there's another bolter here. I'm just going to pick out the black on that as well, leaving that eagle crest to be washed and shaded later on, and just tucking the black paint just right behind. So that's that bolter panel just picked out in black, just there. That's all the colours done. When I was doing the silver, I took the opportunity to go around the feet here, just to pick out again, to bring that silver in. That's the iron breaker, see it matches the spray, and then the paint matched quite well together, so that's repaired now and done. It's a good idea to do that because you are going to be coming right up to the edge of washes and inks and so on the next stage. We'll let those colours totally dry. You do need to let them dry totally, and then when they're ready, we'll go on with the next stage, which is the washes. Next in this urban basing tutorial. Right, so next stage is the washes. Seraphim Sepia first, and it's going to link all the different types. So the panels in the weapons, the skulls, all going to be linked in with this colour. So you can take some Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to use a wash brush, which is a nice size, but still some control over it. And then you sort of use it to shade in the cracks and crevices. You're not washing over the entire model, but just the cracks and crevices. Picking out the skulls as well, just washing over them. And sort of going around the rocks and just letting that ink flow in. Kind of right up to the feet. And it just lets the feet sit nicely on the model. I'm going to do a little bit of shading around here. leaving some areas nice and grey, not touching them. And the skulls, they can all be shaded like so. So you can see this ink going on. Got to work it in to those cracks just there. When you come to abandoned weapons, put the wash all over that, just to show that it's all rusty and it's been left. Remember, it's an abandoned sort of Imperial city, so these bolters could have been laying here for a couple of years, just gradually rusting away, you know, or months or whatever, but time enough for it to rust up. And then here, sort of going around the stones there, dabbing it in slightly, and then pretty much most of this panel I'm going to give a coat of this wash. And then moving along to here, letting the ink flow, and working it and using the bristles to make sure it flows into all those cracks just there. But you can see the great job that these washes do. Yeah, it sort of unites the whole project together, but you can see that looking pretty good. And working in behind. But this gives you a pretty good idea of what you're aiming to achieve here with the washes. So I'm just going to carry on here, just going to put the wash on the rest of the base. Right, so you can see now the wash has gone on, just flowed it, it's all flowed in around the skulls, and then the panels here, all shaded in, bolters, and so on. See the heavy flamers, nicely shaded there, the bronze has come up really nice. And then the banner I've just flooded over the whole thing, just this washed out sort of look. That brown's gone over there just nicely. So, there is another wash to put on, it's just to further enhance the accessories that are on the base just here, but we do need to let the other ink dry first of all before we go ahead with any more washes. So once this is dry, we'll go on to Agrax Earthshade after this. Right, so you can see that the base has dried here quite nicely, so I'm going to go on to the next wash, which is Agrax Earthshade. Now, not looking to do the same amount of coverage on this one, just looking to pick out the more extreme and darker details. I don't want to cover all the panel here, but just more the edges, some of the more denser battle damage and so on. So you may well just use a large brush here, not as big as the wash brush. I'm going to pick out the eye sockets in the skulls. I want those to be darkened down, so just picking them out. And the teeth as well, things like that. Perhaps the inside of the skulls just here, like so. But I don't need to do the whole of the skulls. Then on here, on this rhino accessories, just going to fill out all of the metal work on here. I want that to be darkened down quite significantly. That's going to be very grubby and grimy. All this damage along here, like so, I want to fill that in as well. The whole of the bolter I'm going to cover in this wash also, just to darken down those kind of areas and to just enhance the details on them. Some of the battle damage here I'm going to pick out on that rhino panels there as well, and then the skulls, just going for the eye sockets, just filling them in. It's not as significant, this one, just to enhance the shading that's already been done. I'll just finish this off here on the model. Right, so that's some of the more extreme details picked out there, especially things like the bolter, some of the burnt out wreck sort of panels and so on here, the eye sockets for the skulls, heavy flamer, I've gone over that again in the wash, just enhancing the details in that here, the banner, and so on. So that's that done. Got to let that dry now before we go on to the next stage. The washes are done. Next stage really is just picking out the details, doing some chipping and some painting the skulls, that kind of thing, coming up next. Okay, so I'm going to try and paint the yellow next, just here. So it's just getting that balance right, of leaving some areas sort of fresh looking and then other areas dark and burnt where the damage has actually come through. So I'm just going to paint sort of select areas and pick out the yellow here. So I take some of the Flesh Gitz yellow paint, just going to mix it here so you can see, and then add a little bit of white to it to make a bit more of a washed out yellow sort of look. Take out some of the paint from the brush and then just selectively put it onto some of the areas, and just use the brush sort of at an angle here, and then just kind of patch it on to the panel just here, being careful to go around the bullet hole marks, and then just working. I'm going to go up to this edge like so. Going to be quite neat around this shading here on this square bit. This is an area that's going to be sort of not as badly touched by the damage. Going to flick a little bit across the joint just there. Paint's drying out, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it. Then I'm going to run the brush along the top. Now where the battle damage is here, these scrapes, I'm just going to not put as much of the yellow, so just about that much there. Then coming down, working it into about there. Now you can see the difference here between here and here. And then once that's drying, I'll do a bit over here, so I'm going to go up to the edge and then just sort of patch it on in places, just sort of fading it in. You can sort of stipple the brush a little bit. You want some sort of solid, neat areas, just to sort of show the areas that haven't been damaged too bad. Still going to do chipping and stuff, like so. And then once it dries, it's pretty dry over here now already, so I'll just do a second coat on some of the areas just to strengthen it, to enhance it. It's going to be quite neat. You don't want to make it look a mess, because the eye will be drawn to this area of interest. So just dappling it on like so, and that makes that nice and neat, and then dappling it on just there. So for this side it looks pretty good. I'm going to do some of the sides, the edges, and then the other parts as well I'm going to do with this yellow here, so I'll just do the rest of the model. So you can see there that the yellow's nicely picked out. It has really enhanced that. Because I've been crisp with some of the areas, it doesn't look too messy, although you have allowed for areas of damage coming through, so just sort of getting that balance right. So just there, I've picked out some of the shoulder pad as well, and then around the other side a little bit here as well has been picked out with that yellow highlight colour. Remember, you've still got chipping to add on, which will look quite effective on the edges as well. So the next thing is the skulls. We're going to work on them. So Ushabti Bone, and then we'll do a highlight of Ushabti Bone mixed with white. Alright, for this one, I've zoomed in and I've dropped down to a standard brush here with a nice tip, so you can see it just there. I'm just going to go for this skull here, just to show you. So you can see it's already been painted Ushabti Bone, and then it's been shaded here with the Seraphim Sepia. That's all dried, so then you want to pick out your detail with the Ushabti Bone here, so just repainting the skull, being careful not to go into the details like that. That void there, that dip in the side of the head, you can leave shaded. Then working round to the front of the head, the eye socket, picking that out. Just need to rotate him round here so I can see round to the front of the head, top of the head, the nasal socket just there, teeth and so on, and then just a little bit on top of the head. You can see that's helping him to stand out just there. I'll do another one whilst he's drying. So this one here. So you're just repainting it and then just being careful to go around the areas that you've shaded, like so. Nasal cavity just there, and then picking out the details like so. Alright, so you can see that one done, and the one just laying underneath on its side. Pick out the jaw, then the skull just there. This one, see, it doesn't take too long, it's not too bad. Pick out the jaw, then just leaving that dip at the side of the head that's been shaded nicely, so I won't fill that in. On top of the head needs to be done, like so. Then just rotate him round, just to make sure I catch the front of the skull just there. So he looks pretty good. We'll do another one. This one here with the skull cap knocked off the top. Again, just catching the eyes, around the eyes, and then there, and then the brim itself I'm going to pick that out there, like so. So, like that, looking pretty good. So it just lifts them away from the shading that's surrounding them now. And then just a final finish is to take some Ushabti Bone and then just mixing it up here. Then take a good amount of white. Let a little bit of Ushabti Bone come into it just to make it an off-white colour. You just see that there on the left of the camera just here. And then going to one that's dry, this one here, going to pick out the eye sockets. Eye sockets, the nose sockets, the top of the forehead and the top of the skull, like so. And you can see that just lifts that out, and again it just lifts it another level up. I'm going to show you another example here. The rim of the eyes, top and bottom, around the nose, top of the skull, and then just sort of the sides there coming down, but not the whole of the forehead. Just leaves a bit just like so. See if we can do one more. This one laying on his side, just the side of the skull coming down, eye socket, and then the jaw, part of the jaw, just like so. And then I'll do another one, this one. The brim here, there's the top of the skull's been chopped off, so just catching the whole brim of that just to pick that out. And then again, same again, the eye sockets, nasal socket, rims, the edges, like that. Front of the forehead, and then that looks pretty good. So very happy with how they're coming out. You can see the detail on them. It just lifts them away from their background, so that they're not part of the rubble. They are actual human skulls that you're picking out there, nice and neatly. So you just go around and do that, and I think it's a brilliant accessory to have on the base here. Right, so that's the skulls done. You can see them finished along here and here, and then just at the front just there. You see how that highlight has really picked those out very well. There's one I've just missed there, so I need to do that one, but you can see the difference between the highlight there mixed with the white and the Ushabti Bone, and then when it's not been highlighted. Quite a significant difference just there. So I get that one finished, then just spinning around. One just there I've done, there and there. It just lifts them away from the stonework just here, but looking really nice now. So real battlefield debris and scatter across in. It's looking pretty nicely effect coming out there, looking pretty good. So nice effect here with the debris scattered around and all the shading work and so on done. So we've still got some chipping to do. I'll finish that skull. We'll go on to chipping. Before we do that, just the bronze just here. We'll do that now. So you take some Hashat copper and then some of the old Mithril silver, or Runefang steel as it's called now. Just move this to here so you can see. So take the original Hashat copper that we used and then add some Runefang steel to make a lighter version of it. So you don't want it totally silver, you want it to just be a brighter version of the copper, and just paint that on to that. That just lifts that, gives that more of a burnished look just there, and that's that finished. Then wherever else that is on your display, if you have it, again it's just an optional extra to have, but that's that bit done. Alright, so next colour here is the Iron Breaker, just here. I'm going to use that to do some chipping effect on the metalwork. So I'll show you two areas. The bolter just here. So I'm going to leave it rusty in places and just pick out the main highlights and edges just there, but leaving rusty areas. So I'm just going to pick out an edge along here, along there, a bit of the grip, this bit here, here, and then on the black panel just sort of chip up the corners like so. Just using a standard brush, you can use a fine detail brush, and just doing some dots and flakes where it's chipped, and that looks pretty good like so. And then just to catch the top along here as well, the ridge. Like that. So that's that bolter done. So you can see that the metal's chipped up, but it's still got that rusty, grubby look, like the bolter's been left there for a while and abandoned. And then for the yellow, or any armour plate that you have, you just chip along where you think some scrapes and bashes would take place. So just along the corner there, just sort of random here. And you can see where these scrapes are. Just going to run some lines sort of in this direction, like so, to match in with that. And then where these bullet holes are, which I just used a drill to make them, I just catch the edge, like so. That just lifts them out, makes it look realistic, like the bullets churned out a piece of the metal just there as it's impacted. Might catch a corner of this. There's another bullet hole there. And just some random scrapes, like so, that you can do. And that's looking pretty good. So that's the effect for the chipping as well. Quite straightforward, just sort of leaving most of the design there and then just picking out details, scrapes, circles around there for the bullet holes. And then that just livens it up, makes it look nice and realistic, nice and metallic looking. So I'll do that across the rest of the model now. Okay, so that's all the chipping done. On the back here I've got the bolter, and the panel just here, the heavy flamer, and then spinning around, as we've seen earlier, the panels across here, bolter just there, and then the banner just tucked in there, just highlighting the skull and the pole just there. You can see how that cloth has just been washed out and left just there, looks okay. I'm tempted to add a little bit of something to that, just to break it up a little bit. I might just go for a bit of black here, Abadon Black, and then just, this is just a quick fix, a little bit of water on the banner, like so, and then sort of dirty the banner at the lower point, like so, and then just blotch the black paint coming up, like so. Just makes it a bit deeper in the shading that's taken place just there. Looked a bit too bright. So still keeping the effects there, and then just flooding in a bit of black onto the banner. Just eases it in a bit better. It looks better like that, that's fine. Okay, so that's the base finished. Now really all the paintwork's done. It's looking pretty good. Just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. So there it is. So it's a large base I've shown you, so I've been able to go into various points to. If it was a smaller base, you know, it'd be restricted as to what I could show you as far as this technique is concerned. So I'm showing you how to do skulls here, weapons, pieces of vehicle, the banner there as well, just bolters, and then rocks, small, large, and then how the whole thing's come together using inks to unite the whole thing together. And then that's the kind of effect that you've got. You've got a base there that's not too over the top, but there's plenty going on, and then some nice areas of interest on there. And it should complement this Imperial Knight once it's painted up. All that's left to do is to put some flock on the base here, and then give it a coat of Purity Seal just to seal the whole thing together and give it some protection. So for the flock I used Total System Scenic. It's called Verdant Green, is the name of the flock. It's like a fine sort of medium sort of shade. It's not too glary but not too dark. It's sort of nice colour. It does complement on the green quite nice. It's just going to lift this a little bit. It's just going to add in a different variety, different colour, just to liven it up. And what we'll have is the Imperial Knight's red. We've got some yellow now, and then we'll introduce a bit of green as well. And it just adds a nice another colour into this scheme. So I'm just going to do this little area here just to show you. So my palette, take a bit of PVA glue, just run some, yep. Then just got an old brush, just a brush I don't use for painting. It's just a bit wrecked, but it's all right for doing glue, and then you just dab on, totally random, some patches. Now as much or as little as you want, it's entirely up to you. I'm just thinking of some places this can go. So there's a hole there which I'm going to fill in with some glue, like that. And there maybe just a little bit there right at the edge of the base. So just dabbing that on, and then putting the flock over the base like so. Giving it a tap, and just turning the base on the side, tapping off the excess like so, and then blowing away the excess as well. So just give it a blow here, like so. It ends up looking something like that. So you just added in another colour. It looks a little bit white, but that's going to dry clear, so that's going to tone down quite nicely once that PVA glue is dried. Just going to go around the rest of the display now, just patch on some of this verdant green flock. Alright, so that's the basing done, just patching on the green. You can do as much or as little as you want. It will tone down a little bit once this glue is dried. It's still wet at the moment, but there it is. It just adds another layer of interest to this base just here. So there it is. It's a nice setting now for this Imperial Knight to be painted on. Right, so that's this painting tutorial finished. All I do next is just give that a coat of purity seal, just to seal the whole thing in. Helps keep the flock on there and just protects the rim and the paintwork on the model just there, and that's finished. But that's this basing tutorial done. So I've shown you the urban colour scheme that's very popular. I've used it on most of the armies here on the channel. It's the sort of the first colour scheme I did for basing, so it's good to get that up on the channel, and you can follow along in the video here and you'll see exactly how it's done. So illustrated there for you on the Imperial Knight. If you want to continue the tutorial along, if you're interested in getting an Imperial Knight painted up to the standard that we have here on the channel, then the in-depth painting tutorial for Imperial Knights will be over on the Plus channel. I'm just going to continue this same project on, so the base is done. I'm now going to move up and onto the Imperial Knight itself, and then I'm going to show you from start to finish, right from the very start, all the basic layers and techniques, inks, and then even up to things like transfers and so on. I'll show you everything in the in-depth painting tutorial, and that'll be over on the Plus channel. So there'll be a link here on this video, so you can cross over and see that. It is on the paid channel, but it just means if you tune in and sign up to that, there's a 14-day free trial. You can cancel any time, and then if you do sign up, it just supports me here on the channel. I'm able to carry on putting the videos out there for everyone to see, and then on the Plus channel you get access to all of the bonus content, exclusive battle reports, and loads of other content as well. But that's the basing tutorial here for the urban colour scheme. That's how it's done, and then check out the in-depth painting tutorial on the Plus channel for the Imperial Knight. There it is. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.